Hi, if anyone can hear me, the town's on mute.
Perhaps. Okay. Do you have sound now from the Zoom broadcast?
Yes, we do.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for advising. Okay, Ms.
All right.
Willetts, we turn to
So,
you.
as I was saying, I'll go over the highlights from July and then give a brief update from the Hurricane Ida that came through last week. For July in streets, staff weed ate and weed killed on East Lincoln Avenue walkway around the Creamery Road guardrail. They also cold patched a pothole on Worthen's Court at Worthen's Way. They trimmed some trees on West Lincoln Avenue, and staff cleaned up broken glass from a collision on West Main Street. Related to parks, we installed 4 new trash cans in the E. Eugene Myers Park, mowed, trimmed, and weed killed at the disc golf course. Staff installed the Kathleen Worthen Memorial Bench by the ADA playground. And staff put together 4 new picnic tables at the pool, and they responded to damaged posts and boards from a collision along Community Park Drive. For water in July, Rainbow Lake was 0.8 feet below the spillway level. And then I can report on that. It's up at the spillway now. You see the well levels in July. Our wells are continuing to drop, but not to a drastic level yet. Water production and consumption, we produced an average of 249,457 gallons per day and consumed an average of 235,457 gallons per day. The difference is 12.3% backwash water. We purchased 434,000 gallons of water from Mount St. Mary's in July. For wastewater, we treated 418,000 gallons per day and consumed 235,457 gallons, which means 43.7% was wild water. We had no spills of untreated sewage in July, nor did we exceed the plant's design capacity at any time in July. For July, we received 5.05 inches of precipitation. The average is 3.65. In July, we had a deficit of 1.22 inches over the last 6 months. Trash pickup will remain Mondays throughout the month of September. I listed some of the meetings I attended in July. And then under noteworthy, staff continues to complete some use and occupancy permit inspections in Brookfield. We have some power blips all month at the wastewater treatment plant, which is causing a lot of problems with their electronics. The contractor completed the pump out of Lagoon, and this happened in July, and we're still seeing it. The lake water is the equivalent to pea soup. It's very thick. It's very difficult to treat and to handle at the water treatment plant. Since the hurricane moved through, the tropical storm Ida, the lake is currently full. It's at its spillway level. However, it was extremely stirred up due to the amount of rain, the force that the rain came down. It's been the turbidity at the lake is very high. We're having very difficulty treating it. So we're having to pull from our wells heavier than we're used to. Like I said, the wells are not at the danger level, but it's something we're going to need to keep an eye on. There may be a need to reach out to the mount to increase our usage from the mount until we can get a handle on the lake. It's basically organics in the lake. We don't believe that it's mud. It's just giving staff a difficult time. Well, number 5, the crossover was washed away during the storm. So we'll have to make some repairs to that so staff can access it. And then finally, at the pump station, pump number 2, which was rebuilt last year. Because of this storm, we're at the point now to only pump about 600 or 700 gallons per minute when it should be pumping about 2,500 to 3,000 gallons per minute. It may need to be replaced again. We have a tech coming in sometime this week. And then obviously with the storm that came through, we had several manholes that overflowed. Manhole number 98, manholes 12A and 60, manhole 49 and manhole 50. manhole 35 and manhole 25A. We had a rough estimate of about 50,000 gallons that did enter a flat run. The health department and MDE were notified. And a letter was sent on the 7th today. And that's the manager's report for July.
Any question for the manager at this time?
Mr. President,
Sure,
I have
Mr. Ritz.
one regarding the power blips. Have we looked into any other equipment to alleviate that problem? Like some sort of backup?
Well, so we do have a backup generator, and you're talking about blips that are a second, 2 seconds long, and that's all it takes to shut to cause problems out there. I know Dan's been working with GHD, who was one of the engineers out there, to see if there's any other equipment or any other fail safes we can do.
Like, if you hook a computer up to even for home use or an office use, like some sort of battery backup, you would
Mhm.
think that the equipment there could be handled the same way. It can't be. Is that what you're saying?
I
Are
didn't
you
hear
saying that
you.
you can't do, like at home, if you have like a similar sort of battery backup?
Yeah, it's all backed up. It's just a matter of when it blips, it throws things out of sync, and then they have to manually go in and reset some things, or go back and check and make sure everything's calculating correctly.
Okay.
It's just happening more frequently.
Hmm.
And what the reason is, I'm not sure. But they are looking for different solutions through our engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the town manager at this time?
Yeah, I have one quick one. At what point do we pull the town emergency operations plan off the shelf and implement that plan into some phase?
For the tropical storm, the
Yeah.
hurricane that moved through. It didn't get pulled off the shelf. I did remain in the office till 5 o'clock. The mayor was in constant contact. I was in constant contact with Jimmy Click, the director of public works, as well as the Dan Fissel, water and sewer superintendent, as well as contact with the county. I didn't have any contact with the fire department though. And maybe in hindsight, that should have happened.
No, I'm not concerned about the fire department. I'm concerned about when somebody has an issue with their home, that they actually get to talk to somebody. It's just something, maybe we can't do anything to help them, but through the height of the storm, if they're just somebody that they can talk to and say, hey, we got a problem. And the best we can tell them is hey, we'll be there as soon as we can. But it just is, you know how frustrated we get when you call somebody and get a recorded message. And it's just, I don't know, just something we can think of.
Yeah, I was here till about 4:30, 5 o'clock answering phones. I talked to a couple of people and tried to reassure them that unfortunately I couldn't have somebody there today because the situation didn't warrant it, but we did have somebody there the next day. I was surprised our phone didn't ring as much as it did. It was fairly quiet that day.
Mr. Davis, are you suggesting maybe like a second shift kind of thing, coverage, or like someone to field the phone
Well, just
calls?
something we can think. I don't know what I'm thinking, other than it's just nice if somebody can talk to somebody, and
On staff.
sometimes it's just enough to keep them happy until the next day. Or if they have a big emergency that, we can make something happen pretty quick. That's all.
Unfortunately, our building was then closed shortly after I left due to flooding. And I know Terry was checking the voicemails periodically. I don't know if she checked them that evening, but since we could not be in here on Thursday, she would check the voicemail frequently on Thursdays. But I mean, we're always trying to look the way to do things better as, situations arise. So
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Burns.
Just a quick question. I know we spent a lot of time talking and enforcing the backwater preventers.
Mhm.
Is there such thing as a back sewer preventer? I know we have a lot of towns of various ages throughout, in here we have, back to 1800s all the way to homes that are being built today. Is there something along those lines? Because I know for people that may have had issues with the storm or things of that nature, is that something we might recommend for some of the older homes to prevent some of those issues? Or is that something we've thought about? Because I know we've spent a lot of time on the
right.
backwater preventer. So I didn't know which ones would be better in the long run at the end of the day.
So I had discussions with Jimmy Click and Dan Fiscal about it, and they told me that backflow preventers, which is what we are requiring people to do, would help with sewer backups. So if you had a backflow preventer, it could have prevented a sewer backup into your house. So it works both ways.
Funny.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
I think we made a presentation a couple years ago about where you can have insurance against this, and maybe it's something we need to look at for. Is that correct, Ms. Willetts?
The
Yeah.
the warranty program was for, water and sewer repairs that need to be done at your house.
We did have that, and I do not want to see that company again because they had a hidden agenda. I remember that with the town letterhead and putting their company name all over it. That was a disaster waiting to happen right there. So if we go that route again, I certainly do not want to see that particular situation.
Well, at the same time, we did research a way to kind of remedy this, help our people out, and it was cumbersome, but maybe in the future we'll look at, and we'll all get those backflow preventers. That'll help too. But it is hard to get an a plumber to install a backflow preventer right now. We've been waiting for about 3 months on this, so that's part of the game. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Sweeney, yes, sir.
I do believe a couple of the houses in the DePaul Street did put them in because they had problems with it before.
So I,
Last 2 or 3
right.
at the end.
right, I spoke to one lady who did not have a backflow preventer, and she had a sewer backup, but yet people around the same residents had backflow preventers. And I'm not saying that would have stopped everything. It's just one extra tool maybe that would protect your house from a sewer backup, either through damages or torrential rainstorms that occurred. This was a problem that the entire Mid-Atlantic had on Wednesday, Thursday. So we're not alone in this. It's not a unique problem. But that's one thing that people can do to protect their own properties.
Correct. But the problem is when you use them, when you have so much water as we had to, and the water is above the sewer, manholes and stuff, you can't use any water in your house. No kind of water at all, no laundry, no sink, no water, because that water backs up to your house. They think it's the sewer, but they're running the gray water down through, and if the backflow preventer gets stopped from the water coming back and the sewer coming back, then it's going to still back up into their house. So the water and sewer that they use, when we have this problem, they can't use the water at all during the flooding time. I mean, everybody has to know that. Even though the backflow preventer or the flapper we call would stop the water from coming back, it still prevents the water from coming out too.
Right.
So
When talking to Dan in his 20+ years here, he's never seen this high of flow come through the pump station and not be able to even we stopped being able to handle it at noon. So this storm that came through was hopefully a once in a 10-year storm if we're lucky, but sometimes there's nothing that you can do with that amount of rain in that short period of time. We flooded in places that we don't normally flood around here.
Well, what is our responsibility as the provider of the sewer? Do we have any responsibility, or do we get away with just saying, well, it'll work 98% of the time, with the
No.
other 2% you're on your own?
No, staff went out to the 3 people that called in and filed a complaint. I haven't seen the incident reports come across my desk yet, but then I believe they took photographs of any damage that occurred. And then once we get all those, if there's a need for insurance, and we'll file it through our insurance company.
So would it be in our best interest then to help them get the backflow preventers on? I don't know. That's something we can look at. Just a suggestion. I mean, it's not pleasant. I mean, insurance can cover it, but we pumped a few of those basements and it wasn't a pleasant situation. So if we can prevent it from coming in, I think that would be proactive to, I don't know, whatever.
So
Maybe that's a legal issue that we have to find out from our lawyer.
Probably
Sure.
because you're installing equipment inside somebody's house. But I mean, what's the percentage? Only 12%,
It just hit 13%.
13, only 13% in the town have actually installed their backflow preventers since we started the program a year,
2019.
2019. So it's not, it's obviously it's just not it's not the ultimate answer. It's not going to, it's not a fail safe, but it is just an extra tool to help. That's all.
So as a suggestion, and I'm trying to set this up for institutional memory in case in the future some of us aren't here, as it's an election month. I would suggest the board look at considering a sewer backflow preventer discussion. Have the board consider looking at what type of insurances are advisable for a homeowner related to this type of flooding, and evaluate the legal issues related to this sort of thing. I think it's a discussion that we, it's dictated by the weather, and we have to respond. I feel, or the town government has to respond. So I would suggest we come back at a future time with these things in mind. Be we here or not, right? Okay, so terrific. All right, are there any other questions for the town manager at this time? Mr. Sweeney, yes, sir. The device outside the house? Terrific. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. All right, so we now turn from the town manager's report to the town planner's report.
Thank you. This is my report for July. For Board of Appeals, we had a Board of Appeals meeting on the 19th of July, and I processed meeting materials for that. That was for the Rudder 2 signs. Board of Commissioners, I attended and prepared presentations for the 7/12 Board of Commissioners meeting. I attended a conference call on the 12th with Frederick County Beekeeping Association regarding the apiary section in proposed ordinance 2109. I updated the comprehensive plan based on Chapter 3 amendments. Thank you to Terry for helping me with that. Prepared documents and presentations for the August meeting as well, and prepared ordinance 21-13 updates to Title 16 subdivisions. Under grants, fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 21 quarterly reports. Chesapeake Bay Trust Grant Management, our rain barrel program. I completed and submitted the final grant report. Please contact me if you'd like to purchase a rain barrel. That's 50% off. Let's see, Silo Hill Stormwater Basin retrofit design and permitting. We're still working on that. Our contractor should have the designs completed very, very shortly. For the community development block grant management, I had a pre-construction meeting on the 13th. I had a county grading pre-construction conference on the 13th, reviewed, finalized contractor payment and performance bonds, and the contract with MIM Construction Inc. Prepared and submitted the quarterly report for that, prepared the notice to proceed letter. I created expense tracking sheet, finalized and mailed construction notice letters to all property owners that are adjacent to an ADA ramp that's going to be constructed, just so they're aware, and the mayor signed all of those. Issued notice to proceed under MS4. We're continuing to work on the Silo Hill Stormwater Basin retrofit project. We're hoping to have construction started next year. Tree planting project management. We did receive a very large grant from DCNR for over $400,000 to plant 26 acres of trees at our wastewater treatment plant. And also our Daughters of Charity is going to give us some land over there as well for tree planting. So our first tree planting will be on October 9th. So please put that on your schedule. I'll have more information. I'll email it to you at a later date, but October 9th will be our first tree planting volunteer event. Continue to work on our current year permit, MS4 permit. Under stormwater utility feasibility study, I issued addendum number 1, number 2, pre-bid meeting minutes, and also attended a pre-bid meeting on the 14th. I mailed 3 outfall deficiency correction letters, oversaw contractor work on the outfall community park stormwater basin. I attended a community outreach meeting on the 28th regarding the Silo Hill Stormwater Management Basin project. That was well attended by the Silo Hill community. Permits and zoning, I processed 14 zoning permit applications for noteworthy, 1 new home in Southgate, 1 new commercial structure, which is the Rudder store, and also 1 roadway and utility work, which right now is on Irishtown Road, which will be closed until October 4th. And there is a typo. It's actually 4 signs, not 34 signs under permits. Process 35 backflow preventer permits, 2 alteration of infrastructures, 1 grease trap, 2 street closures, 1 street cut, and 1 no zoning permit required. I mailed 9 high hazard backflow renewal reminder letters, various incident reports Amy and I responded to and prepared for and attended the court trial, which we spoke about at our last meeting. Planning Commission, Rudders, Irishtown Road, Federal Stone, East Industrial Park, 2 Village Liquors and Plaza Inn, and Ripley's Creamery project management. Under Irishtown Road, I reviewed various bonds, finalized plans, zoning permits, fee checks, underground utility plan, and gave the green light to start construction. Village Liquors and Plaza Inn, I received and reviewed, prepared staff memo for the site plan and the traffic impact analysis. Received the corrected forest plans for final approval for the mayor and planning commission chairman. Emmitsburg East Industrial 2, we received and prepared staff memo for the forest delineation plan, the forest conservation, and also preliminary subdivision plan, which are all approved now. Process and reviewed the utility deed of easement and the Creamery court deed of dedication, which we will discuss tonight. Under Rudders, process and reviewed utility deed of easement, prepared staff memo for proposed ordinance 2021-12. I attended a meeting with the mayor and Ripley's Creamery owners on the 13th. We attended the planning commission meeting on the 26th. Attended a conference call with the mayor and Dan Ryan builders regarding potential development at Fraley Farm. We haven't heard anything from this since this meeting. Miscellaneous forestry stand 10 project management. We had a conference call on the 27th and 29th, and that pretty much sums it up. Tim, your mic's off.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the town planner at this time?
Mr. President, I have one for the
Yes, sir.
planner. Regarding the Fraley Farm, Dan Ryan Builders, is that the same? That's not the same as Ryan Holmes, correct?
Correct. They're different. I think they're family members. However, they're different companies.
Is Mr. DeMitt connected to this in any way? I know
Not
I
with
asked this
them, no.
before, but I know they do work together, but.
No, not with Dan Ryan.
Okay.
He's connected with Ryan
Ryan
Holmes.
Holmes. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for the town planner? Yes, sir, Mr. Burns.
Mr. Golden, question for you. We've had issues, luckily only once in the last couple of years with Northgate and the flooding and everything like that. I know, obviously, we can't have that area dredged underneath the bridge to kind of help with the water flow and stuff like that. Does it have any effect with their stormwater pond that is basically not in use at all? Does that cause any of the problems?
It does
Or
not.
when we have to have that redone, which I know we've had long discussions about, would that help improve that at all with the runoff, or is that something that's going to be completely disconnected from it?
Are you referring to the basin that's currently mowed or the other basin that's?
The basin that's
overgrown.
directly next to the playground.
Oh, yes. So yes, good point. So yes, that does cause additional issues. I don't think it could have been prevented with
Correct.
this recent storm, but in large rain events, it's not designed to hold large quantities of water, which it should be. So once we go into our next permit term, Kathy and the mayor and I have been talking about hopefully retrofitting that basin next, which will help the flooding problems as well as we do the Green Street. It should help significantly.
Okay.
But the overall goal is to get that second entrance and exit.
Okay, because I know we had discussions in regards to that, the creek and everything there, and obviously we can't dredge it to make it deeper to allow for more water flow or anything like that. And obviously the bridge is pretty low right now, so the water obviously gets stuck and things of that nature. Is there anything that can be done underneath that bridge to allow for more water flow, or is that a situation where we're fighting a losing battle at this point?
So the main problem is that was built in a floodplain. So it doesn't matter really how deep you build the bridge there. It's just going to flood. It was, my opinion, a bad design, but that was way before our time.
So something that just years ago was overlooked.
Mhm.
All right, cool.
We
Unfortunately.
recently, Zach, reached out to was it State Highway about the bridge, and they came up and did a bridge inspection and didn't find too many areas that needed repaired.
So nothing's wrong with the bridge, it's just really low.
Correct.
Right.
just to give you a little history, that's been flooding back there. I hate to tell you this, but I remember back in the 60s. So it's always been, even before Northgate, it was an issue. So.
Okay, any other questions for the town planner at this time? Okay, Mr. Golden, our conditional approval to Duncan to open and their outdoor seating that is yet to show up. I've seen gas stations break ground, get built, open, and have sale. In the meantime, since we've conditionally approved them, is there anything we can do to expedite that process with them?
Sure.
Have
So
any leverage on that.
I spoke with Mr. Patel regarding your question, and he stated that is in extreme back order. However, there's nothing we can do because it was an add-on that he wanted. We don't have anything in our code that requires outdoor seating. So there's nothing, unfortunately, that we can do regarding that. I can keep bugging him. That's pretty much the only thing.
That would be great if you would be politely reminding him. I don't know,
Sure.
if it's bugging him, but
Yep.
I just think, there was a condition put in front of us and we thought we would accommodate. And I think now this is beyond appropriate. So appropriate pressure, I feel, would be the right response.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay. Moving forward.
Mr. President, I can, there he goes. Now I can hear me. I could barely hear Mr. Golden. I'm just.
Yeah, there we
we're in the
go.
Same room, but I don't know broadcast. I think.
I'm sorry, I wasn't close enough. What
No, I think it was the mic, the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to repeat?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Unless you want him to. I don't, but
We're good.
okay.
Good.
Seems the mics are working.
So, Mr. Ritz, you good?
I think I am.
Okay, fair enough. We now turn to commissioner comments. At this time, we turn to Mr. Ritz. And I'm just going to work across the line here.
You said me.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to thank everyone who assisted during the storm. Thank you, Commissioner Davis, for getting that dumpster for people who had flooded basements. And just a friendly reminder that we have an upcoming election, so hopefully everybody gets out there and votes. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I also want to thank the town staff, especially the maintenance staff, they were out late at night trying to keep things open and close things and then get them back open again. And then several of them went home and had their own issues to deal with. So they deserve a lot of credit for that. October 2nd and 3rd is going to be a busy weekend in town. It's reunion weekend for Mount St. Mary's University. It's also Fallen Firefighter Weekend. And we also have a baseball tournament in town. So it's going to be the town's going to be packed. So you think you could go, if you're looking for someplace to eat, I'd go out of town for that weekend. Also, I'd like to ask that in the January meeting, I know it's a long ways off and it's something we've kind of wasn't able to do because of the COVID, but if we could invite the 2021 Catoctin baseball state champions here to give them a recognition like we did the football. The reason I say January, hopefully we'll have the kids that are in college now should be back home and we could get some of them here. And if we could get them a little momentum, gift, just like we did for the football team. I think that would be great. And something else I'd just like to have considered. Since the sign ordinance has been in place for 2 years, I think it's time now that I would like to put a little committee together of business people and nonprofits to review that and see if we have to do any updates or anything for that. And I'd just like us to consider that. And that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sweeney.
I too would like to thank the first responders and everything it was a mess. I came up from Baltimore and it was a mess everywhere. And when I got to town, there was only one way to get into town. But on the staff and everybody in town, all the fire company and ambulance service and town and the police, and everybody was so involved with helping everybody else out. They didn't even care about helping themselves in their own homes, but I thank them for all the stuff they did. We do have an election coming up this month, at the end of the month. So please come out and vote on September the 28th. And Frank's right, we do have a baseball tournament and everything going on. The Little League will be coming back next week for the Little League. They're supposed to be sending a schedule out. So that the children will be playing ball in town during the week, at least 3 days, I think. They did last year, so I imagine they'll do the same thing. So we appreciate Frank for getting all that started and getting the Little League back here to use the field, so they're being used. So if you want to come out and watch the ball game, it's free. You can sit and watch them. There's bleachers on every field. So you can come out and watch and help support the children. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Commissioner Burns?
I'll be the fourth to say thank you to the town staff for all the work they did during the tropical storm. Additionally, thank the town staff for the new tables that were put in at the pool. I know the pool is now officially closed, but they're a great benefit. It's nice to have somewhere to sit on the grass area. And I think when we add the umbrellas next year, it'll add some nice shade for everyone and hopefully draw some more people to the pool and the surrounding areas. Additionally, there is not October 2nd and 3rd to add more chaos, but the 17th, 18th, and 19th, there is a yellow ribbon ride to help aid in wounded warriors that's coming through Emmitsburg and Gettysburg. They're going to start at Mount St. Mary's University, and it'll do all the back roads around here and finish up in Gettysburg. They're planning a party up there, and then they'll ride the next day as well. So if you see a lot of riders around, just be aware, especially on the 18th and 19th, because we'll have a lot of disabled riders as well as able-bodied riders. So that you'll see the flags and all the back roads and stuff like that. So on those days, just be conscious of people coming through town. And finally, it was great to see all the baseball fields were packed tonight. Both parks had everyone there. It's great to see baseball back in town and the Frisbee golf as well. There's been a lot of people taking advantage of that. So it's been great to see all the people coming through town. Thanks.
For clarification, cyclists?
Cyclists.
For
Yes.
the veterans event. Awesome. Well done. Okay, I'll move from lighter to more serious. So here we go. I want to compliment the mayor for his gathering a rather large sum of money for the town for our recreational facilities from the MML event. Funds were made available from Frederick County. It was a complement to the program open space money. So we walked away with pretty substantial money for bleachers, for field improvements, for another restroom, and what am I missing? Is there another item? Paving a parking lot in the park. So Mr. Mayor, well done. The Red Trail, after its devastation by the forestry work, which I'm beginning to really be unhappy about, the Red Trail repairs are underway. So the Red Trail will be open in time for the USA cycling event in the Frederick area. We anticipate tourists riding up here around the weekend of October 23rd. This is a national event. This is the committee that chooses Olympians to represent the United States in mountain biking. And they came to Frederick County because of our trails, the trails in Frederick and the trails in Brunswick. They like us. We've done some good stuff. Regarding the library, I was approached by the library. They're going to come to the board at a future date, and they're going to seek funds to support two efforts. The first effort, they're setting up a high school display to remember the Emmitsburg High School. And they're looking for us to contribute some funds for frames for some of their display items. And they're also looking into the community for some items related to the high school as part of their display. They're going to put it downstairs in the community room, and they're very excited about this. We have a library that has a deep history, and they get tourists from alumni and alumnae who had gone to the school who still visit the library to look around. They want to see the building. They want to know what's going on in town. And it would be great, I think, if we were to have a hand in their effort. They also are interested in seeking a placard, one of the historical markers that we have outside. They want to see something about the library, and it's long history here as well. So they're going to approach the board about that, and hopefully we can get maybe a second spot outside. What they're doing with some of these placards is they're sending the kids on a scavenger hunt around town. And the kids are doing these walking tours around Emmitsburg, and part of it is learning the history of the town. So it's good citizenship. They're teaching down there in literacy. And I think, anything we are able to do, I would like us to try to do. A simple announcement, a change in Brookfield affecting both Brookfield and Pembroke Woods. Folks are now allowed to turn left onto Irish Town Road for the first time ever. Brookfield Road itself is not closed. It's Irish Town below Brookfield that's closed. So I just want to make sure folks in the neighborhoods know that they can actually exit there. They obviously can't enter there still yet. To more serious items, our flood response. A stunning flood, an extraordinary event. And I've gotten some inquiries from folks in Northgate who are kind of scared because of the floodplain issue and the flooding issue there. And the best reassurances I can offer are, if a development does occur adjoining that neighborhood, there will be an exit to Irish Town. I think that's the most reassuring thing they need to hear. In the future, I know SHA has intent to replace that bridge, but I'm disappointed to hear that it's not anytime in the near future. An encouraging thing is our replacement of blacktop or removal of blacktop from North Seaton Avenue and putting those bioretention setups where we are capturing water off the street. For an event like this, with the quantity of water we had, nothing I think would stop that flooding, nothing. But in lesser storms, I think we can knock down some of the water that gathers there by some of these steps that will be in place. And I would like to think that even though we can't excavate a channel when a new bridge is built, I'm sure they can do something to enhance the water management. I know there's a sluice there and a narrow gap. The channel behind the neighborhood is, going between hard rock, but hopefully moving forward, there's something that will be able to mitigate that flooding. And it was good to hear the stormwater management pond would contribute to that. Regarding those who set up, I was humbled. I mean, I got out there and I got to see, obviously the Vigilant Hose Company was there. Our police officers were there. Deputy Ahalt, this was his day off and he was everywhere. And he came in to look after us, and that's appreciated. So you know. There were the fire police out there volunteering and our town staff out there in their rain slickers trying to keep the baling wire to keep the pumps going with the grit that was in them and monitoring them, literally personally monitoring them to make sure the devices are not going to quit on us and have a real catastrophic disaster. So my hat is off to everybody involved on that end. It was humbling to stand there among our crews. And finally, thank you to the mayor, staff, and Commissioner Davis for the dumpster piece. Brilliant idea, effective government at its best, where you have a dumpster brought there to help the people who need it the most. And the fact that volunteers from, I believe it was the Vigilant Hose Company were helping pull the debris out of their homes and people were pulling it out on their own. It's nice to see on our, where there's a shining example of truly good government, and that's represented by those activities where people pitched in on that. So as promised, from lighter to heavier, but very proud of our town. And, sure, is there room for improvement? Absolutely. But I think we're moving in a positive direction. With that, Mr. Mayor, I turn to you, sir.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Just to highlight a couple of things from the month. Start off going back to July 28th. We had a Zoom meeting, the planner and myself with consultants on the Sile Hill HOA stormwater management pond. I think it's well received, and we're working with the community on that. I had various meetings with the town staff and our attorney with regard to Ripley's Creamery and the adjoining property on the sewer, and we're addressing it, and I think we worked it out. We have a stand in woods that's being clipped up there, and it's should be able to take care of the funds we need for that. I attended the Sustainable Maryland Executive Committee meeting on August 10th. It was a Zoom meeting. I had a Zoom meeting with Envision Frederick, and it was a follow-up with they were our guest here August 28th. They held their meeting in our park. And it was very well. We had different delegates from the state, and one of our county commissioners was here for that. Want to thank really Frank Davis for bringing that attention about the dumpster, and I worked in it a little bit with trying to get the permission from the county to use our facility here, and our staff, our manager Willits. We did accumulate $326,000 worth of grant money for our parks this spring. And I had the backup from the staff to present it, and we played poker, and we did pretty well. I'll call it poker. We had to bid around the room on how to get this money. All total, I went in there I asked the staff to put together something on it, what grants we've gotten in the last couple of years. Is $4.5 million worth of grants our staff has worked on. And I think when we hired the next generation, this generation of staff, they knew that part of their description would be to get grant money, and they're working on more. We got so much in the works right now. I would like to proceed with the town manager myself. We proceed with advertising for an assistant sewer plant operator. It's already in our budget, but I wanted to get your permission to go ahead and start advertising. It's a real tight market out there. We don't know what we're going at, but we got to start going at it and look at that. I want to get at least consent, if I could, from you here. We'll have a groundbreaking for Rudders, believe it or not, this Monday at 10 o'clock at the site, September 13. They have really staff that's done a terrific job working with them. The site is right between a stream that goes down to the Chesapeake Bay. That's water, and we're in the watershed. And former President Obama had put the bay under EPA, the watershed. So it took a lot of work. And on the other side had a state road they had to work with. So it's not it looks easy on paper, but it's not. If I'm Commissioner O'Donnell, if I'm not mistaken, you know the history better than I do, but I think we had the first Emmitsburg had the first public library in the county. I think that.
I believe that's part of it. Yes.
And you're right that it's accumulated some designation we need to put on the street. Elections, please vote, and to everybody out there in Northgate, we're sorry for the disruption, but it was one of those events, and hopefully we'll have a second entrance on the way here in the next 2 years. I think that's it, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Microphone. Okay, so I turned to public comment, and I have the Hagen signed up. Do you want to speak to a specific issue when it's presented, or do you just want to make a general public comment? Please join us. Yes. So I invite Mr. Kevin Hagen to come forward.
Thank you, Mr. President. Kevin Hagen, 1304 Huntley Circle. First, I want to draw attention to the purple ribbon you have here and thank the town for recognizing suicide awareness. It's a big supporter of 22 a day. I like to see this type of stuff. To get on, I just want to draw attention because there's been a number of emails going back and forth between my community and I think some of the town members and the town planner regarding what's going on in Brookfield. And I thought we need to say something public and get it out here. There's a number of things that have been happening. And I originally was going to send some emails, and something happened like at 5 o'clock today and said, I need to come here in person at this point and say something. There's been a lot of strange and I find troubling with, RJD development and Ryan Homes. We have incidents of blasting going on in the new development without notice to the fire marshal, which is a mea culpa. Afterwards, they got hold of the town planner and said, oh yeah, you're supposed to notify the fire marshal. It's after the fact, blasting's going on, people in the neighborhood panic, don't know what it is. Some of the members of the community made blasting signs to put up, not Ryan Homes, that type of thing to warn it. We have recently come to discover that property that has always been said as part of the community owns and maintains actually owns to Mr. DeMitt. Again, you can ask the town planner to confirm that. But little things like this keep coming out. I mean, the roads have been destroyed during construction. Arguing over, should the town pay it? Well, they're doing it. They should have late. And I think the thing that got me tonight, we've been battling over H&A. Mr. DeMitt personally has controlled the HOA now of Brookfield for 18 years. No members of the community, no voted elections. 18 years. It was supposed to transfer when you hit percentages or 15 years after the fact, which I think some of the community members here may have. Didn't happen. Today, he sends a letter out via the management company that he will now appoint a new board, not an election, but he will personally appoint a new board. You know, as somebody that lives in a community 18 years after the fact and the homeowners still aren't running things are troublesome. And what got me here today was I got copies of a contract that covers from starting, it was signed in 2020 for land and maintenance agreement that the HOA signed, specifically stating what property the HOA has and is paying for maintenance, grass cutting, and everything. It turns out the HOA doesn't own that property. Mr. DeMitt owns that property, but the HOA has been paying for it for years. And that's a big problem for me. I mean, you know, I'm paying dues, I don't get a vote, and now I find I'm maintaining his personal property out of my dues. I just wanted to make sure people understand what's going on. Is we have a lot of stuff, you know, I don't mind the development. We have 19 new houses and it's already shady things are going on. You know, my members, you know, community members are mentioning things to me. Community members have emailed certain one of yous to everything. They've emailed the town planner asking questions and nothing good is coming of this. And I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention so you are aware of it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, at this time, I invite Ms. Wendy Hagan to speak. Sure.
My husband's the hard hitter.
If
I'm
you
the soft
identify yourself,
glove.
address and
My name is Wendy Hagan. I work at 1304, live at 1304 Huntley Circle. I wanted to thank the mayor in person. I have enjoyed the park lately. Every time I go to the park, there's something new. Yesterday, I took my dog to the park, went to the dog park and found a training table that had magically appeared at the dog park since last time I was there, which my dogs woefully failed at, but we had great fun doing. So wanted to really appreciate the grants
You have a great staff that,
and the staff. And the only maybe slightly negative comment I'll make about is that we do realize that there's been some discussion about putting apartments or townhouses or duplexes near our development. I'm not a NIMBY, not in my backyard person. But I do have some concerns as a mom who had two teenagers here who couldn't get a job in Emmitsburg. And they wanted a job. They wanted to walk to work. They could not. They couldn't find anything. I'm really encouraged by Rudders. I'm really encouraged by the Creamery. And one of the reasons that we bought a house in that development is because we loved Emmitsburg and wanted to be a part of the community. But we were also excited about the plan, which called for light commercial development in the front there. I want businesses. You know, I drive to Waynesboro and I hang out at that coffee shop that they put up with my computer, drinking terrible coffee because I didn't go there for the coffee, right? I went there to get out of my house because I'm working home every day. That could be here, you know, and I see a developer who just hasn't done anything to really live up to the plan he already agreed to. And now I hear about another one. So that's just my little concern. But we'll let the planning commission hold that, but I just want to bring it up. But I really did want to thank you and the staff because this town, every time I walk around, there's something new and it's great. The trees look great. I was actually a really advocate who didn't want the trees to be cut down at first, but that looks really good. So thank you.
thank you. At this time, I have nobody else signed up for public comment. So. Sure, if you choose, Ms. Reagan, you come on up if you would, and this is Commissioner Burns.
Just curious for you, do you know the voting rules in your quote unquote HOA right now? Is it 2-1 versus so the owner of the empty properties has 2 votes to 1?
So until the requirements were met, it was 3-1 and everything. So it didn't matter. Homeowners didn't get a vote. After the sales quota was met, and I think it was 76%, I'd have to go back or look, or the 15 years plus there was an extension that the city of Emmitsburg gave them for another 2. All of that is passed. So now it's 1-to-1. And that's not happening.
So if it's 1-to-1 now, homeowners obviously outweigh.
You got to have a vote to turn everything's over. So far, according to Claggett Management, who's the management company, they needed him to confirm a date of a meeting. He refused, point blank. Right before I came here tonight, they said he's agreed to a virtual meeting now, the end of the month, to appoint. And I can't stress that, Lauren, appoint a new board.
So the fight should ultimately be with Claggett Management for allowing him to do that, because if it is 1-to-1 at this point in time, you all should have the
But,
control.
right, and I agree, but Claggett says they represent the current board, not us.
There isn't a current board if he's the only individual, correct?
But he makes up the board.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I agree. So, but
Because I, as the president of Southgate.
Yeah.
So the empty lots were owned in the same situation and they had a 2-to-1 vote. Fortunately for us, there was 8 empty lots
Right.
and we had more. So we were able to outweigh
right.
them and we weren't
So
in that situation.
So I've pushed Claggett, I've been talking to them for a year and I don't, Krista Claggett, or Kista Claggett, sorry, is the agent manager. And nice, up forward, tells you the facts. She's not misleading in any sense of the word. She's had problems getting a hold of him with regards to this issue. We've pushed and I pushed them. We can technically have a meeting without him because he's failed to live up. There was no annual meeting last year to even approach a budget.
Zach, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong here, but there might be something in your bylaws, and every HOA is different.
Agreed.
And I don't know if we as a town can help them, which I don't think because HOAs are individually controlled. But if someone went back to look in your bylaws, there might be a way of holding a separate vote outside of him now that you have more controlling votes than what he does to oust him from that and put your own board into place.
You can technically do it, but you don't get control of the books. And without control of the purse,
Well, Claggett would have the books, and once you vote him out, wouldn't you get it?
Claggett won't recognize it without him saying so. I had that talk because I wanted to have votes.
No, I understand. Yeah, I'm just trying to give you
Oh,
feedback.
no,
on what I've
I
dealt with.
appreciate it. I
What I've dealt
appreciate
with and
anything,
stuff like
but it's that type of thing. And Mr. President, I think as the town planner could address is all of a sudden it's land that institutionally forgot that the town will get control of recently that we thought the HOA owned it. It was actually, it's going to be your land when this is done. And it was institutionally knowledge that was lost.
Did he set any timeline on his recent message of the appointed board, like the
No.
duration of their tenure?
No,
No.
just that this, it'll be a meeting at the end of the month and he will appoint a board.
Have you discussed with Claggett's lawyers on the legality of that?
They've kind of ducked me and I said, guys, if we don't get some requests, it's headed to litigation. We're trying to avoid that. I
Right.
mean,
Obviously.
it is the goal, but it's just the shadiness of land of who owns it and not turning over HOA and all of this. You can't say, is it illegal? Is that, it's shady.
Sure, sure.
I have just one question while you're still up there. Has DeMitt owned it the entire time? Or has it passed, so I know with Southgate, that properties have been handed off to many different people over the last, let's say 15 years. Has DeMitt always had ownership of all those empty properties?
It's my understanding that it's RJD Development Corporation,
Okay.
but I only have institutional knowledge from 2018.
Right.
So-
And that's why I asked that, because it might be just a suggestion is if you can go back within the Frederick County records to determine if he's had control of that the entire time, or if it was obtained by him in the last 3 to 4 years.
No, land records have been done and the tax
Okay.
record shows RJJ development continuously.
Because I know Southgate, that's been handed off 12 different times.
Yeah,
the last
and
couple
even
years.
with some of the new stuff, he approached the council to override the planning commission. So this was many years ago, to put new developments in the front. And this council voted him down, said, nope, we want stores.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So. All right, hearing none, we move forward. So at this time, we turn to item number item number H, pardon me, from administrative business or proclamation. 2021 of Recovery Month in Emmitsburg. Mayor,
I'd like to defer to you to read the two proclamations, sir, if you would, please.
Proclamation, National Recovery Month, September 2020. Thank you. Proclamation, National Recovery Month, September 2021. Thank you again. Whereas National Recovery Month is a national observance held every September to unify the community and reduce substance-related deaths and overdoses, and whereas mental and substance use disorders affect all communities, and whereas nearly half of all overdose deaths involved a prescription painkiller. Prescription painkillers are killing more than car accidents and homicides combined, and whereas 1 in 4 teens report having abused or misused a prescription drug at least once, 4 out of 5 people who use heroin started with recreational use of prescription painkillers, and whereas the town of Emmitsburg offers hope and resources, supports those in active addiction recovery and their loved ones. Whereas the town of Emmitsburg invests in the future of its youth through prevention, education, and whereas the town of Emmitsburg joins Frederick County in going purple, standing together and conquering addiction. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and council of the town of Emmitsburg, Maryland, do hereby proclaim the month of September as National Recovery Month and call upon all citizens, community agencies, religious organizations, medical facilities, and businesses to go purple, to bring awareness and understanding of mental health and substance use disorders, and to celebrate those living in recovery. Adopted the 7th day of September 2021. Do we need a motion to accept this proclamation as presented? Okay, is there a motion to accept the proclamation as presented? Is there a second
So
for
moved.
the motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Commissioner Ritz, seconded by Commissioner Burns. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Now turn to our second item, another proclamation. Sure.
Proclamation Juneteenth Day Annual on June 19th. Whereas Juneteenth or Juneteenth Independence Day commemorates the traditional observance of the end of slavery in the United States and is observed annual on June 19th. And whereas January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, setting in motion the end of slavery in the United States. And whereas the Civil War ended with the surrender of General Lee at Appomattox Courthouse on April 9th, 1865. And whereas the news reached Texas when Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston Bay with Union troops, it was on June 19th, 1865, that he announced, "The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free." Whereas Juneteenth commemorates African-American freedom and celebrates the successes gained through education and greater opportunity. And whereas on a larger scale, celebration of Juneteenth reminds each of us of the precious promises of freedom, equality, and opportunity, which are at the core of the American dream. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and council of the town of Emmitsburg, Maryland, do hereby proclaim June 19th as Juneteenth Day annually in the town of Emmitsburg, Maryland, adopted this 7th day of September 2021.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to accept the proclamation as presented?
I so move.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Motion has been seconded by Commissioner Burns. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Burns. Now turn to item C, discussion related to modifying legislative document templates, presentation at the meeting.
Commissioner O'Donnell, I think Deputy Ahalt.
Yeah, just real quick, so I can stack it for those dates, I just need to send an email. So the 2nd and 3rd, that's 10, that's October, right? That's the baseball reunion and all, and the fallen firefighters, correct?
It'll start coming in on Friday, though.
Okay, so what, the 1st?
The first. The firefighters will start coming in on
Okay.
Friday. But most of the events are Saturday, Sunday, with the biggest being Sunday,
And the-
correct, Commissioner Davis?
Biggest is Sunday?
Yes.
What is the 17th, 18th, and 19th again?
That is the yellow ribbon ride that'll be happening on the back roads behind Mount St. Mary's up to Gettysburg.
Is that September?
Yes, September, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's September.
Yeah, it's the 18th and 19th.
Okay, and the 23rd was,
USA Cycling in Frederick's watershed and Gambrel State Park, but we anticipate tourists up here also.
got it.
We're expecting about 600 competitors plus 2 times for guests and visitors in support.
And that's
10-4.
September also.
That is October
That's
20th,
October.
the weekend of October 23rd. The event's on the 23rd.
Okay, I got it. We'll get it covered. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay, at this time, we now turn to item C, discussion related to modifying legislative document templates. A presentation is forthcoming. We turn to.
So it was brought to my attention at the last meeting, I guess, in August, that there's a request to maybe document which commissioners voted for or against a piece of legislation. So Mrs. Shaw came up with 2 examples that could be added to the bottom of any legislative document. If you'll see halfway down the page, there is some lines where it says for, and then we would write the number of commissioners that were for it and their names, against, absent, and abstain. And then, or the checkbox with the commissioners' names listed out, and then we could just put an X next to for, against, absent, or abstain. In talking with staff, we think it is beneficial because sometimes it is hard to go back and track the minutes to see what was done and who said or voted for something. My personal preference would be the second, the checkbox. Would be easier for staff. I think it's a little bit more efficient instead of having to write everybody's names out. But those are our recommendations.
Does anybody have a preference here? I lean toward the chart format.
Yeah, and I'm the one that brought this up initially, and I do apologize. I know, I think Ms. Shaw sent me the template and I just got so bogged down with my daytime job. Never did that. So I was happy to see this. So thank you for doing that. Yeah, I think the second example, if we're gonna go this route, is the neater, more efficient way. I guess the only thing is whoever it's on then, when members of the board change, I guess that's a quick fix in
Right.
Word. So
Yeah, we felt that was the easier option.
So just an informal straw poll, just to see everyone, are we approving the chart? Is that fair to say?
Yep.
yeah,
Yes.
So, Ms. Willis, you want a motion from us to accept this template modification using the chart?
The item's not listed for vote. I think just your discussion is suits sufficient, and we can start utilizing that.
So, unanimous consent for.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We turn to item D, modification of 2021 election judges for consideration. That refers to this handout that was provided tonight, separate page. Turn to staff.
I believe the mayor.
Oh, to the mayor, okay. Good. Yeah.
Yes. We've had some changes. We've had some changes because of different people have obligations that got a little mixed up. They can't be served as election judge. So chief judge would be Lynn Orndorff in place of Sharon Hain. I will be swearing her in on Thursday. Charlotte Mazelewski, no change. Tammy May, no change. The greeter, Deborah Arnold, no change. The alternate, Diane Wahlberger, cannot serve. She's going to be called up and sent on a FEMA emergency assignment and will not be able to serve as an alderman. But we do have 4 people there that we think we can cover it. But if I have to, we'll make sure everything's arm's length. But if somebody should get COVID or whatever, I'd like your permission to swear somebody in. Yeah, if you're not around, and we'll do it appropriately with witnesses here and everything like that. But this is our lineup, and Lynn did it last year, and so Sharon's is going to be have an operation. That's pretty much it, sir.
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? That's carries 5-0. Now turn to our consent agenda item. This relates to the appointment of Sandy Slaughter to the Citizens Advisory Committee. Term would run from September 7th tonight, 2021 to September 26th, September 7th, 2023. Consent item, there's no discussion. Is there a motion to? Thank you. Do you want me to take it from the top? I will take it from the top. Okay, we are on a consent agenda item. This relates to the appointment of Sandy Slaughter to the Citizens Advisory Committee. The term runs from September 7th, 2021 to September 7th, 2023. As this is a consent agenda item, there's no discussion. We just go to vote. Is there a motion to accept Sandy Slaughter as the Citizens Advisory Committee's newest member?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second for Commissioner Davis' motion?
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Sweeney. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone
Aye.
against? There are no nays. Very good. Thank you. Okay, we now turn to the treasurer's report.
Good evening. This is the treasury report for the town of Emmitsburg. As of August 30th, 2021, we have a cash balance on August 1st of 2021 of $7,401,744. We had deposits in the amount of $589,838. We had withdrawals in the amount of $299,659, with leaves us with an operating balance forward of $7,691,923. The top 10 check amounts are listed below, and if I can't answer your questions, staff will.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for staff related to the treasurer's report?
I'll just, you see 5 solar invoices. As staff was doing their year-end closeout and balancing all the books from the year-end, we did notice that we were missing a couple of months of solar invoices. So we reached out to the company and they resubmitted them. And that's why you see extra payments for solar. It's just catch up from earlier in the year.
Very good. Okay, thank you. All right, is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented?
I so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney, seconded by Commissioner Davis. All in favor of accepting, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Okay,
That's a
Thank
new
you.
one.
I think it is.
Yeah, it was.
A little punchy this night. Okay, we turn to the Planning Commission report. Mr. Golden.
We're not voting on mine, are we?
Mr. Ritz, I'm sorry. Did I miss something?
No, the planning commission report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Ritz, please.
No, he asked if we were voting since we voted on the treasurer's report.
I think we're not.
I'm going to abstain.
Let me think of it. No, we're not. Okay.
So
Punchy
the planning,
president, forgive me.
planning commission did meet on August 30th, and we conditionally approved the site plan for Ripley's Creamery. And I do apologize. They actually legally go by another name, and it's something LLC, and
It's Mercasa Holdings LLC, I believe.
sounds about right. I just wrote down Ripley's Creamery.
I did
make
too,
life
yeah.
easy. Those conditions, at least in my opinion, were minimal in nature. It's just addressing some things on the site plan. I don't feel there would be anything similar to what you brought up this evening, Commissioner O'Donnell, and the Duncan situation. And then we also tabled the site approval of the site plan for Village Liquors and Plaza Inn. 2 reasons, mainly, there were many conditions for the applicant to clean up. More comfortable seeing those at a later date, which actually most likely will be next month. One of our members brought up a really good point. You know, it would be pretty much a moot point, not a moot point, but it wouldn't make any sense to conditionally approve that site plan that night because we're going to be looking at the applicant's improvement plan next month. So we'll look at both of those plans and hope to approve those both at that time, if that makes any sense. That's all I have, unless Zach needed to add anything else.
Nope, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no, that was good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so no vote. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Ritz.
No problem.
We move forward to agenda items. We turn to a public hearing item. And with that in mind, I want to make sure I get procedurally the correct. Okay, is this correct? Okay, we are going to be holding a public hearing related to the approval of resolution 21-05R to repeal the charter of the town of Emmitsburg in its entirety and adopt a new charter for consideration. We will hear a presentation by town staff related to this. And for clarification, Ms. Willits, are we starting the hearing now before the presentation? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, very good. So at this time, I will call for a hearing related to the meeting to consider resolution 21-05R. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
I so move.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second's been made by Commissioner Ritz. Any further discussion? Hearing none. We move forward and now we turn to the meeting to consider resolution 21-05R has now started. Now turn to staff.
Thank you. As you mentioned, this is going to be a public hearing and approval of resolution 21-05R. Essentially, you have to repeal the entire charter of the town of Emmitsburg and then adopt a new charter. Mr. Clark Adams from Leslie Powell's office, the town attorney's office, is going to assist with the presentation on this. On page 21, you'll see the procedures for the adoption of a charter. There's 8 steps that the town has to follow. The public hearing was advertised in the Frederick News Post as required in the public notice section for the 21 days prior to the meeting as required. And then there's several steps that that staff has to follow after this meeting to ensure that the charter is adopted correctly. And then also on page 21 is the fair summary advertisement that was included in the paper, and it basically summarizes the basic 16 points in the charter, the majority of which were stylistic and grammatical changes, as well as misspellings and inconsistencies. And then you see that the copy of the resolution, the new charter would have to be posted at the town office through October 17th of 2021. And Clark, if you're available, if you want to kind of highlight the areas that are being changed.
Certainly, yeah, and I'll just focus on the substantive changes because, as Ms. Willits noted, there are a number of mere stylistic and grammatical changes that you'll see in there as you look through. I believe on page 22 of the agenda packet begins the red line comparison of the old charter to the new charter. So let me just hit the highlights of the substantive changes, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that might come up. So the first change is to section 2, the boundary section. What's happened there is the actual description has been removed and replaced with a note that the actual description will be kept on file at the town office with the town clerk. The idea there is just so when and if the boundaries do change in the future, you don't have to amend the charter again. You can simply amend the description that's on file. Moving on to Article 1, Section 3. This isn't very substantive, but this section was amended just for the sake of clarity. That language that was added comes straight out of the local government article And the idea there was just to sort of clean that section up, make it a bit more comprehensible. Moving on, Article 1, Section 4 was amended. That was simply to remove some redundancy there. The first real substantive change that we have comes in Article 2, Section 2. And what's done there is the residency requirement for qualifications to members of the Board of Commissioners has been reduced from 1 year to 30 days. The reason that change was made is because the 1 year residency requirement is likely unconstitutional. So we changed it to 30 days.
If we have a question, could we jump in now or?
Yeah,
wait till
no,
Mr.
I
Adams?
think that would probably be the simplest. So if anyone has a question, just cut me off and we can talk about a particular provision.
I have a question then regarding that residency. You brought up that it was likely unconstitutional.
Yes.
So if it's found to not be unconstitutional, we can leave that statement in there, correct?
So Clark, I know I had conversations with Ms. Powell, and in her previous position, she has challenged the residency requirements for commissioners and mayors on behalf of persons and was successful arguing those cases, and it was deemed to be unconstitutional. So I think to err on the side of caution where we won't open ourselves up to be challenged during an election, these were the recommended changes. Is that correct, Clark?
That is correct.
So is there a minimum threshold? I'm sorry. Is there a minimum threshold to be anticipated for residency, like a day or?
I think this is what the minimum is what they put in here is the 30 days.
Okay.
We have a high degree of confidence in 30 days.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Certainly, with 30 days, we have a high degree of confidence that that would withstand constitutional muster.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Just playing devil's advocate here, though, somebody might argue that that's infringing upon their rights because they've only been here 25 days and they'd like to run for office. Because somebody will do that.
Well, yeah, you can't protect yourself from everything, I think.
Yep, certainly somebody could make that challenge. We do not believe that would be a successful challenge. Whereas we do believe that if somebody challenged the year, they would succeed on that, which is why we made the change.
So theoretically, we could have a group of college students come in here in July.
No, because unless
They're living here in town.
Mm-mm.
they have to have residency the entire year. So if they go home, they don't establish their residency, then it's not.
Well, they could be taken out of office, but I mean, when they leave, but they could run the town for half a year. I mean, theoretically,
Correct.
That's it.
I don't think that's protecting the town very well, but most
So-
laws don't.
So you change it to say permanent residency? Would that be?
Well, our charter
my-
does cover that. When they move out of town, they have to drop there.
Right, but to
but,
avoid having that happen, that's a
You
good
know,
point.
weirder
Avoid that
things
having-
can happen, you know.
happen.
that's,
Because
Yeah,
their
I mean-
driver's license isn't going to show unless they've changed their address and get a say, because we require identification, correct? When they come in and file for their candidacy, they're going to have to show identification, which would have to show their address here in Emmitsburg.
But by
And-
law, they're protected from that too, because you have so much time from the time you move into a new
30
address
days,
to get,
30 days. Where's Jason?
so
He's not here. 30 days from the time you
theoretically,
move
it's
to a
just
new
a,
state.
you know, okay.
But no, I think I mean, I understand. I don't know, could it be we just add the word permanent?
You wouldn't be able to say that because then you're basically saying they're restricted from moving in the future. So it's the same as any kind of like non-compete clause in a contract or anything like that, saying you limit their ability to move essentially.
I trust what our legal counsel is telling us.
I
I'll just
understand what you're saying.
like to throw that out there, that it's opening the door. We could have people that barely know Emmitsburg and come in here and run it. So, okay.
The point is well taken, but I would recommend leaving it as is.
So, Mr. Davis, part of, I think, what we will see, given exactly what you're saying, is it's imperative upon the constituency to engage. I know that's a hard thing to ask. Like, we have a very engaged town. Generally speaking, people know what's going on, but the question about voting, I think this is going to put a new emphasis on people participating in elections. So that's, I think that's the only,
Oh, that's right.
for lack of a better term.
Good luck with
protection we
that.
have.
Let me know how that works out.
Yeah, yeah.
Another good point is you have to be a registered voter to run for election also. So
Okay,
that I think would also have a safety net.
sure. Wow.
How long is the registered voter for town? I mean, how long you have to live in town to register for voting?
You have to register with the county. So you have to be eligible to vote in the county to register to vote in our election. So whatever the county,
So we don't know that now.
I don't know that answer. I don't know the county and states rules.
Commissioner Davis, this is going to come to a forefront at some point in time, not necessarily here. I don't know if you've heard Herschel Walker is running for congressman in the state of Georgia,
Senate.
but he doesn't live there. He has residency for X amount of time and he's running, but then doesn't live there. So it's sooner or later, this will come to the forefront with the court systems.
Sure.
And then we'll just have to piggyback off that at some
Yeah, I
point.
think there was somebody elected in New York a few years back, same way, but I'm not going there.
Okay, so moving
Moving on.
forward. Is that
Moving
okay,
on.
Board?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you,
All
sir.
right. The next item that I have, Article 2, Section 12. So this provision just sets forth the specific enumerated powers of the Board of Commissioners. There was a general catch-all provision added, subpart 35, just summarizing any powers granted under state law. I think there might have been a question at some point about number 17, animals running at large. I know that that's sort of a funny thing to have in there. I guess my first point would just be that generally speaking, this section just says the board has the power to legislate in these areas. It doesn't say that the board must legislate in these areas. And just for reference, I believe Ms. Powell revised an ordinance recently dealing with animals running at large. And that is just any animal that is not on its owner's property under close, on a leash. So that's what that is. Moving on, Article,
I'm sorry, can I stop you just for 1 sec? I have 2 questions in that article.
please.
And then I'm done. I promise you. I
No,
promise.
hey, this is what we're here for.
Yeah. Number 8,
Yes.
where it says we protect town from fire and unsafe buildings and to regulate the cleaning of chimneys. Now, who's going to inspect chimneys? Is that going to be Amy's job, or should that really even be in there?
Well,
Why did
again,
we-
this is just, you have the power to legislate in these areas. It's not telling you that you have to legislate in these areas. So you would need to pass an ordinance relating to the chimney inspections before that would be relevant.
So basically, is it giving us the authority to maybe adopt legislation that would require the cleaning of chimneys? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Which is why I don't think anything needs to come out. But again, it doesn't mean that you have to actually take affirmative action on any of these 35 points.
So in Baltimore, gosh, I should just leave this on all night. You guys will suffer, I promise. I'm sorry. I'll try and avoid that. In Baltimore County, it's my understanding that every time property conveys, every time a home is sold, the chimney, if it has one, has to be inspected. And I don't know if that's something at a future time we would consider or Frederick County would consider. It's typically handed off to a licensed chimney inspector, and they come out and I think they get paid $200 or something per site visit. And I think they're also allowed to remediate. So just a thought.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then number 13, it says to regulate and contribute to the support of the fire company. What does regulate mean?
Well, to the extent, and if if there was a fire company, the town theoretically could, well, place regulations on that fire company and how it's run, and general oversight of the fire company would be my interpretation of that provision.
Okay, we don't want that to happen because the county's already screwed us up enough. We got to keep politicians out of the fire service. So, okay, that's fine. So we still will have to adopt something.
Yeah, yeah, again,
Okay,
the
I'm
thing
good.
with this list is it doesn't mean anything until you do something.
Thank you.
And for clarification regarding 13 again,
Yep.
would that relate to a publicly funded firehouse? Is that the assumption here, or is it for any firehouse, any fire company, pardon me?
The language is broad enough that I would read it as any.
So that brings me to you, Mr. Davis. Still okay with this?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. We have to adopt something before it can happen, and
We'd have
Yeah.
to make an ordinance change.
your cars will start catching fire and stuff like that if you try that.
Seriously. Mr. Mayor, I'm coming back to you for the chimney item. You had a comment?
No, I'm on to 17. I had a question.
Oh, very good. Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, a question related to 17 for the attorney. Yes, sir.
Yes,
just
the animals
as-
at large.
Just the second sentence, where to tax dogs, you mean tax dogs?
Yeah, we don't-
That's all, just
Remember when this was written way back in the
Yeah.
day? I think they actually did.
tax.
I believe so, back in
Okay.
the earlier days when
Skinny.
this was written.
I believe that is correct. And again,
And-
I am not advocating a dog tax. Um,
No.
You lose here.
Right.
You're out of office to do that. Thank you.
Okay, moving forward.
Great. Article 2, Section 13, there was a change made to the maximum fine associated with enforcement of ordinances. And you'll see that in a couple places throughout the restated charter. Just for the sake of making it consistent, there are some places where it's at $100, some places where it's at $500. So what we've done is we have reset all of the maximum fines to $1,000, which is the maximum that you can have under state law. Again, it's up to individual ordinances to say what the actual fines are, but just for the sake of consistency, the charter will say the maximum amount will be $1,000. Moving on, I'm in Article 3 now.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
I believe back to Article 2, we didn't talk about it, but Section 15, I think there's a word missing in letter B.
I see that. Yeah, I have that flagged as well.
Okay.
There should be an and after
And cannot.
absent is
Yep.
absent and cannot. I
Thank
agree
you.
with that.
Okay.
So if we can make that change in the
Sure.
final document.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Article 3 under the mayor. Section 2, again, with the residency requirement, we've dropped it down from 2 years to 30 days. Again, 2 years is certainly unconstitutional. 30 days, we're confident in. There are
I think
also
we-
some,
Clark, I think we went with 3 months on the mayor.
oh,
Is that still okay?
hold on.
Okay.
I
My
do see that
person-
now.
My personal
Yeah.
view, I don't agree with it. I realize it's unconstitutional, likely unconstitutional, but if we're gonna change both of them, then might as well just make them the same.
3 months.
30 days for both.
We could do that. If you want to be consistent.
I don't agree with that consistency, but
I'd rather have it 3 months. for both. I don't think 30 days is enough for somebody brand new coming into town taking over. I really don't. Especially for mayor or commissioner. Even though the mayor doesn't have any voting power.
I agree with 3 months. The language, though, if they're going to correct and update, you might want to say he and she instead of just he straight through the board.
Mhm.
So. we're looking at general inclusiveness,
Yeah.
there, and what's your thought? Mr. Ritz, you said 30 days, is that correct?
Your mic's off again.
Yeah, there was a.
Okay, Mr. Ritz, I'm sorry. Your thought was 30 days? Is that
I was
correct?
only saying that if we're gonna be changing the one for consistency's sake. I certainly don't like I don't like the 3 months to begin with. I really don't like the 30 days. I just suggested that for consistency. But if we keep it at 3 months, then so be it.
Personally, I lean toward 3 months, and I would love to see this tested in like other municipalities, of course,
Not here.
but correct, not here. I'm not inviting that.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yes, you're right. Um,
I honestly think Woodsboro's mayor, and I could be wrong. I think he had not lived there very long before he was elected. I think theirs is short. I'd have to look it up.
the short duration.
Hmm.
Yeah, but they're a Burgess, right? They're not. a-
Yeah, Burgess, not
right.
mayor.
And was that out of need and necessity, or was that out of just there was an active election, like a competitive
I
election?
think there's just was an active election.
Okay, competitive. Okay. Gosh,
I think so. I'm not.
of course, I don't want to set us up for litigation, but I personally lean toward 3. I just think, there's got to be some.
Time to get to know the town and its
Yeah.
people.
You should at least know
I
where the
think,
town
I think
office is.
for what it's worth, I do think 3 months would work for a mayor. I mean, we did set these, we distinguished these for a reason. I think 3 months is fine.
Okay, so just a straw poll, it seems we have a majority for 3 months
For both of them.
for the mayor. There was no mention of changing the commissioner one at this, like.
Mr.
where
Ritz
we are.
asked for both of them to be kept the same. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, but who am I? I just said that.
Right, but that's
And we-
not a modification.
And I don't think we're voting on this tonight anyway. This is just, we're
Yes, we are.
We are voting on this.
we're voting on this tonight.
Right, this is an action item.
I thought, okay, I got confused. I thought it was,
Okay,
it was open for a time period.
Well, it is. So you vote on it, you vote to adopt it, you vote to pass the resolution, and then it goes, I have to go back and look at my
40 days.
notes.
There's a 40-day period where the townspeople can petition for a referendum.
Got it. Okay, that's what I'm confusing.
Yeah.
Thank
Right,
you.
so if there is no referendum, the resolution, new charter will go into effect in 50 days.
Right.
If there is a referendum, then it gets put to a vote on either the general or special election.
I'm okay. I'm still, and I realize the legal
Well-
implications, but we've gone this long with nobody suing the town because they couldn't run for office. So, I just don't want to change it regardless. And I'm leaning towards,
So you wanted to stay the year.
that's what, yeah, 2 years and a year. I wanted it to be what it was. I didn't think that this needed to be changed, but if everyone overrules me, then they overrule me.
okay. So moving back to it, we have a contentious item here. All right, so with that in mind, Mr. Davis, the choices put in front of us, 30 days, 3 months, just from what's put in front of us at the moment from the attorney. He says that 3 months could be sufficient with the understanding that it could be tested as well through litigation.
I think it needs to be tested.
And Mr. Sweeney, you're.
I think it needs to be tested. I would like them both for 30 days.
For 30.
Commissioner and for mayor.
Okay, so you want the consistency. So you agree with Mr. Ritz. Very good. Mr. Burns?
I'm okay with 30 days.
Okay, well, we have a majority there, therefore. Okay, well, then we will move with 30 days based on the majority from the board, from what the board has put forward at this time. Okay. Please continue with the substantive changes.
Sure, just to be clear, we're setting 30 days for both the commissioner seats and the mayor?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
And I only brought that up for consistency's sake. I do not agree with it 100%.
Okay,
Okay. The next substantive change is also under the mayor's section. This is Article 3, Section 3B, and this relates to the veto power. We've removed the ability to veto orders and resolutions. The thought behind that is orders and resolutions are not really legislation per se. And the veto power is typically reserved for legislation, meaning ordinances. And just to sort of clarify that, I don't know that the mayor is out there looking to veto too many resolutions, but we thought we would clarify that section. The next set of,
Mr. Ritz, hold on, please, sir. Mr. Ritz, go ahead.
I just wanted to, I don't know if we need to add anything here. There seems to be a misconception at times where, let's say we're at a meeting, one of us is absent, or so there's an even number of us, that the mayor would be a tie-breaking vote. Nowhere in the charter does the mayor get a tie-breaking vote.
Because he's not. He can't be the tie-breaking vote.
Agreed. However, it was mentioned in a town meeting before,
Okay, then it was,
quietly.
if it was me, I was mistaken. If I mentioned that, I was mistaken. Yeah, he can't be. So if there's a
That wasn't
tie
the-
vote.
that wasn't
then
the only, that
then
wasn't the only time
dies.
though.
Then it-
So
then it
It was
dies there.
tabled.
okay,
Right,
So anytime there's a tie vote with the commissioners, then
it dies.
it dies.
correct.
Yes.
So I didn't know if we need to add that in there for clarification for future. Or we just leave it as is.
I would leave it as is.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to go out of our way to state a negative in the charter.
Okay.
So-
I
All
can
right.
live with that.
Moving on. Okay.
Yes, sir. please.
The next, and this is the majority of the remaining substantive changes, comes to Article 5. So Article 5, Section 9. Which deals with anticipated revenues and expenditures for public utilities. We just added, to the extent that already, if there's an anticipated surplus, it should be factored in. But if there's an anticipated shortfall, that also should be factored into the budget statement. Moving on to Article 5, Section 19. What we've done here is just to bring some clarity as to what happens when taxes are overdue. This framework comes straight out of state law, but this is just sort of to bring some clarity as to what happens in that eventuality. The same for Section 20, which is just giving the town the authority to turn over a list of delinquent properties to the county. Section 21 has been revised to make it clear that any fees received by a town employee belong to the town. Section 22 just explicitly states that the town's books and accounts will be audited annually. That's a state law requirement. Article 4, Section 24 and 25. Section 24 is just making it clear that the town can borrow money by issuing bonds. So that's your long-term debt. And then Article 5, Section 25. Sets a limit on the amount of bonds that are outstanding at any point, so it won't exceed 40% of total assessed property values in the town. Article 5, Section 27 deals with short-term borrowing and sets a limit for short-term borrowing plus outstanding bonds to not exceed 50% of the total assessed value of taxable property in the town. And then the only remaining changes are in Article 8. Again, there's a provision where we, for the sake of consistency, set allowable fines at the $1,000 state limit. And then Article 8, Section 3B, just makes it clear that to the extent there's an ordinance that conflicts with anything in the charter, that ordinance is repealed to the extent of the conflict. And those are the substantive changes. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, yes, sir.
Just again, what is the residency requirement for a commissioner?
I believe we decided it was 30 days.
Yes.
Why wouldn't that be the mayor? He gets 3 months.
And we changed it to 30 days.
Did you
We,
change?
we
that?
did change it to 30 days.
Both of them? You changed both?
Correct. They are aligned.
Thank you.
So to clarify for Commissioner Ritz and Commissioner Davis as well, when we touched on the Herschel Walker situation, for the state of Maryland, however, to be a delegate, you must have 1 year residency in the state of Maryland and must reside in the area that you're going to represent for 6 months prior to election. So that's the state of Maryland to be a delegate, but nationally, it's a completely different law. So just a clarification on Maryland versus national laws as well for you.
So why wouldn't the year hold up for us then? Ours
It's
not national.
it's a different standard with localities and municipalities. And again, I know that Ms. Powell has challenged these things in the past and has been successful. So I would defer to those numbers.
It's interesting that it hasn't been tested.
I've been here
Thank you.
23 years. It wasn't tested yet.
So, or maybe we're just not aware of it at this time, beyond what we're hearing. Okay, so any questions for the attorney related to the modifications and the replacement of the town charter? Okay, so Ms. Willetts, I turn to you. Is there anything that needs to be added by staff related to this at this time?
I don't believe so. I will add, I was mistaken about Woodsboro. He has resided there for longer than what I had suggested.
Sure, okay, no worries.
Yeah, I mean, all these changes were recommended by the attorney, and obviously they had their reasons why they recommended it, and staff deferred to them while developing these changes. So, but I don't have anything else to add for the charter, no.
Okay, so procedurally speaking, I want to make sure that I'm aligned. We are still in the hearing at this
Just one
time.
last thing, Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Mr. Burns.
The only thing I would ask, and I brought it up, is just to make sure that we're gender specific,
Correct.
because a lot of this was written years ago where it's his, or
Right.
he. And obviously in the past, we've had several women serve on our board
Absolutely.
and things of that nature. So just to make sure that we had those in there. So he, she, his, her.
So you just want to see the individual, like the term, the individual, or one?
I don't even have to say the individual, but I think if everything says he, are we running ourselves for problems in the future?
They certainly are, yeah.
And if you put he and her, you might be running into problems too.
Right, so that's why.
So the individual is fine.
So if it's permissible, if we could go with perhaps the individual, or, one may or one may not, referencing to an individual again. Trying to keep it.
I refer to the lawyers. I just,
Right. Now I'm with you. I understand. So we turn to our attorney. Is that a modification that can be made?
he checked out. He's like, I'm out.
Oh dear. Evidently.
No, I don't see why a change can't be made. I would
Okay.
defer to them what they feel is most appropriate.
So when we make our motion, we would add, with the modifications discussed this evening in the meeting. And that would include the 30 days for the second one, for the mayor, 30 days for, 30 days for the mayor was the first change that I can recall. And the second would be
And then-
non-gender specific pronoun, one or
And-
the individual.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so procedurally, at this time, we close the hearing, is that correct? And do we need a motion to
Yes.
close the hearing?
Oh, any public comment?
I'm sorry. Is there any public comment at this time through Zoom or in the room? Nobody signed up for it, so hearing none. Is there a motion to close the hearing?
Assuming
Thank you. Is there a second for Commissioner Sweeney's motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney, seconded by Commissioner Burns. Any further comment or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 to close the public hearing related to Resolution 21-05R. Now we turn to the board. We deliberate. Okay, so we now open this for discussion by the board. No, we've moved through that. I'm sorry. So before we
Basically
move,
ask if there's any further discussion.
right,
And then
before-
you, there's,
correct.
yeah.
Before we move to the vote for this item, is there any further discussion? Are there any other questions from board members related to the modification, the dismissal of the old charter and its replacement, the new charter?
No, I just want to make it clear that I'm not against new people being involved in town government, but it takes you 6 months to find the reservoir. You know, it just, I mean, really, it does. And it's just, we could have a whole new board come in here of people that lived here for 45 days, basically. And it's, but I'm going to vote in favor of it, but that's just my comment.
Understood. Yeah, there's a risk there. Wholeheartedly agree.
but they have to have townspeople vote them in.
Mr. Sweeney, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
They have to have the town's residents vote them in.
Correct. That's exactly right. It takes the vote of the people involved to choose these folks.
So question then,
Mr. Burns.
could things be added to this town charter in a resolution in the future? So for example, the 30 days, if this comes back and, more discussion, obviously with the lawyers, they've challenged us to a year and things of that nature. Could it then be enacted or resolution added to the town charter to say, okay, hey, we have to go back and change that 30-day qualification to a year, whatever it may be?
yeah, I mean, you can do charter amendments at any time. They're a lengthy process to follow. That's why I think a lot of places don't, I don't think there hasn't been a charter amendment since I've been here. That's why a lot of municipalities don't do them. But certainly in a year or how long, if there needed to be a change to the charter, we would go through the same process again.
Okay, so procedural clarification in process, it's a little redundant, but when we repeal the charter,
Mhm.
we don't have a moment of lawlessness and no charter. We instantly accept and put into action the new charter.
Correct, because the resolution is to repeal the current charter in its entirety and adopt the new charter. So it's all one action contained in that, two actions contained in one resolution.
And the reason it's done that way, for example, if in a year we decide we don't like that 30-day requirement, we only have to change that specific section. But here there were so many things that needed updating. It was simpler and more straightforward to simply repeal and replace as we've done.
So you can change.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so with these things in mind, no screaming anarchy, Mr. Ritz, in the gap. We move
What?
forward. And that moment of lawlessness, no screaming
It's the
anarchy.
Wild West.
That instant. Okay, but I'm Doc Holliday. All right, we move forward. With these things in mind, is there a motion to repeal the existing Town of Emmitsburg charter and replace it with Resolution 21-05R as amended in the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second for Commissioner Davis's motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis has made the motion. It has been seconded by Commissioner Burns. Is there any further discussion at this time? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone against the motion, please say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Very good. Are there any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries 4-0 with Commissioners Burns, O'Donnell, Sweeney, and Davis in favor, and Commissioner Ritz against. We now turn to our next agenda item.
No, it's actually four.
Page
Page 53.
It's my dog ears. Okay, so we turn to what is now agenda item number 3, correct?
It's page 53.
53, I'm sorry, we bumped one.
So
correct,
this
I'm
would be
sorry.
agenda item number 2, but it's technically number 4.
Okay, so we turn now to agenda item number 4. Quick question, board, are we okay moving forward? Does anybody want to recess for a brief moment? Or are we okay to press on? We're good? Okay,
I'm good.
very good. All right, Mr. Sweeney, yeah, you're good to go?
Good.
Okay, very good. Okay, approval of an access easement on the wastewater treatment plant property for the Frederick County Creek Re-Leaf program and authorize the mayor to sign on behalf of the town for consideration. You turn to staff.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. We were approached by Linda Williamson, who I believe is on the call. Linda, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
From the Frederick County Creek Relief Program. If I could ask you to turn to page 56 of your agenda packet. They are looking for access through our wastewater treatment plant to a 5.27 acre parcel, which they are going to be planting trees. And I'm going to turn it over to Linda, if you could explain the program a little bit better than I can.
Sure. Frederick County has it's called the Creek Relief Program. I work for the Office of Sustainability and Environmental Resources, and we do the MS4 permit. And one of the allowed items for the MS4 permit to control stormwater is planting of trees. Which I believe you guys are embarking in your own tree planting effort on the treatment plant as well. So every year we submit for applications, we open it up. And last year we had the property owner of that parcel apply to the program. He owns a large portion of the property and he farms it. And when we went to go on the site, you can access the property. You would need to cross over Flat Run. There's a ford there. But while we were talking with him and discovered that there was possibly a better way to enter the property, which is that red line that's going right across the road of the treatment plant. And we were out on site a few weeks ago, and my understanding is the gate that is there was the old road to the former treatment plant that we would be accessing for the property. And this would be so that we could go in and maintain the trees. For the first 5 years, we will have a landscaping contractor coming in 3 times a year to mow, 2 times a year to spray for herbicides, and also to come in for tree maintenance. And then after the 5-year period is up, the county is responsible for inspecting on the property once every 3 years to maintain the stormwater credit.
Yes, thank you, Linda. And we did add some provisions that, for example, number 2, it's authorization by the county, its employees and contractors have limited access during town's normal business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 p.m., excluding recognized holidays, just a protection of the town. And, if there's any kind of damage, the county would have to pay for that. Other than that, we think it's a good partnership with the county. And that's my presentation.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for staff or the relief representative from the county related to this item?
No, we've been working with Zach and he's been great. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to present this. And we do think that going through the existing road is a much better alternative, especially now that we found out when we actually went on property that you can actually go back there and there's a road, I guess a former road that we'll be going on, as opposed to trying to cross a creek every time.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay, to the board, are there any questions from the board for staff or to relief? None. Okay, all right. So therefore, trying to get the right, sorry. So is there a motion to allow an access easement on the wastewater treatment plant property for the Frederick County Creek Re-Leaf program, and to authorize the mayor to sign on behalf of the town for consideration. Do you want to do this in two parts? Is that advisable?
No, just
No, one's
one's fine.
sufficient?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So is there a motion to that effect?
I so moved.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Is there a second for Mr. Sweeney's, Commissioner Sweeney's motion?
Second,
Mr. Ritz, was that you?
that was me.
Thank you. Okay. So a motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney, seconded by Mr. Ritz. Is there any further comment or discussion among the board? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? The motion carries 5-0. Very good. Okay. Return to agenda item number 5. Approval of public works equipment purchase for the USDA Community Facility Disaster Grant for consideration.
Can you go back to number 2?
Did I? Yes. You know what? I'm. All right. Yes.
46. Yep.
Right behind you, I promise. Okay, we now turn to agenda item number 2. Creamery Court dedication discussion, presentation to be made by staff. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I could ask you to turn to page 50 of your agenda packet. The mayor and board commissioners previously approved the deed of dedication for Creamery Court at their meeting on May 5th, 2008. Clifford was there. However, this document was never recorded at Frederick County. The attached deed will officially turn Creamery Court over to the town's ownership. And we just include a snippet of the meeting minutes there. It says May 5th, 2008 meeting minutes, dedication of Creamery Court. Mr. Holler presented the Mets and Bounds description plus plat, stating that the documents have been reviewed by the attorney and the road has been inspected, and informed the council that the developer of the remainder of the road will guarantee the condition of this road. Commissioner Stager clarified with Mr. Howler that no liability comes with the acceptance, and there was a motion to accept. Per the town attorney, this is a discussion item only, since the Board of Commissioners has previously approved the dedication. One good thing about the motion was that they included that any kind of damage with future development will be covered by that developer. So the town is covered on that aspect. So this is only for discussion, so I can take questions if there are any questions.
I have one,
Yes, sir, Mr. Ritz.
and I'm not insinuating anything. I'm not pointing any fingers. But because we found out that this happened, have we investigated any potential, anything else that might have gotten overlooked related to this or something similar, maybe even in the same time frame?
At the direction of Kathy, we had Jimmy go over and inspect the entire road, make sure it was sound. All the lights were installed, everything is good. So we think everything's okay.
I mean, other, okay, so other administrative type.
Mr. Ritz, you're talking about broader things like any
Broader.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand what
There's-
you're saying.
Okay.
We haven't found anything at this time. Usually, unfortunately, we're more reactive than proactive, because until something's brought to our attention, we don't know to go look for it.
Okay.
Obviously, if it is brought to our attention or we do come across something, we will attempt to rectify it as quickly as possible. And that's why this has been brought forth.
Okay.
Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially like maybe even that time frame, you know, was there a root cause, like just a simple oops, you know, that hardly ever happens, or maybe there was something bigger at that time too.
And we just
It could
approved.
even be a personnel issue.
Right.
There's staff that's no longer here. Well, obviously one's not, but it could be more than that too. You know, maybe somebody was just having a bad day, or
Well, I think that
God
this
knows what
goes
could
in
be going
hand in
on.
hand with the water and sewer issue out there.
Mhm.
I think that kind of all went hand in hand. It was all about the same time frame. But to answer your question, we have not found anything else as of yet.
okay.
So the purpose of this as an agenda item is to advise the board that this has happened and it's now being submitted to the county. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Very good.
Yeah.
Board, have we been advised?
Thank you.
Okay, we've been so advised, therefore we move forward.
Yes.
Do we need any vote? I don't believe so.
No.
Very good. Okay, so we press on now to agenda item number 4.
Three.
3. All right. Just feeling it, folks. I'm feeling it.
They must not count very well in Montgomery County. I don't know. what that
Yes.
was, so.
What are they
Oh.
thinking down there? Thank goodness I teach this. Okay, we press on. Agenda item number 3, award stormwater utility feasibility study contract for consideration. I'm on page 51 of 62. So hopefully everybody's with me.
All right.
All right, so now we turn to staff again.
Thank you, Mr. President. As always, there is our timeline. As always as well, the RFP advertisements. We did the RFP on the town's website, Facebook, Channel 99, Frederick News Post, and the notice to the MML classifieds. Just a reminder, this was before the recently adopted change to the advertisement, so we did not post it on the Maryland Marketplace. Town staff recommendation, based on comparable bid packets, staff recommends going with Wood Environmental and Infrastructure Solutions for $50,045 for the following reasons. They received the highest scores from the review team of the mayor, manager, and planner. They have conducted over 200 stormwater utility feasibility studies throughout the United States and Canada. They have very favorable references from Hagerstown, Maryland, Rockville, Maryland, Falls Church, Virginia, and York County, Pennsylvania. No negative comments were received. They have an in-house public relations staff with significant public education and outreach experience. They have significant stormwater management and GIS experience. The project manager and public outreach team leader has over 29 years experience, and the senior project manager has over 35 years experience, and they are within the town's budget, $50,000, which you allocated this year's budget. So the next page, 52, here are our proposals received in alphabetical order, and I'm available for any questions. Your
We
mic.
can't hear you.
Thank you. Again, speaking of sound, if there's a phone on the dais or with staff or with the public, I'll ask that it please be silenced so we have the meeting going through. Please. Okay, so we're looking at these, and a question related to the public relations piece. Do we understand that they will be doing some means of public education to advise the community through town staff? Is that part of it, or will it be a separate piece, or?
Yes, sir. So we are going to be starting a advisory, stormwater utility advisory committee,
Okay.
which the mayor will be recommending members at our next meeting.
Okay.
So they will be, if we have any specific questions that, town staff can't handle, we'll ask them, which is covered under the contract.
Okay,
So they're going to be running these meetings. They're trained public relations, so.
terrific. All right, so the message will be, for lack of a better term, pushed out through them, through us.
Correct.
Great. Okay, that's important. Okay. Any other questions for staff related to the contracts?
I have
There is.
one.
Yes, sir.
Happy to see that Wood Environmental basically hit the mark we budgeted for. What is up with the University of Maryland's bid?
Sure. So, they have a very competitive bid. However, they've only ever conducted three stormwater utility studies. And we were more comfortable with a firm that had more experience, since it's such a serious, important topic.
This firm that Wood had just an enormous amount, especially in the public outreach section, that I think is really imperative to this project. Yeah, University of Maryland, I think if they had more experience, but only doing 3 total, we weren't very comfortable with it. I recently utilized a firm for the dam process that had no experience, and
Well,
it was
yeah,
disastrous.
true. I don't know. It just, is that going to happen every time though?
No,
I like the dollar amount better.
How much of this is being pushed by MS4? Is this what it's all about?
100%.
There's another $50,000 they're taking out of our pockets. I'm sick of it. And you hear it every month, and I'm just sick and tired of it because it's.
Maybe that's why the university's coming in lower.
Interesting. Mr. Mayor, you wanted to add something earlier? You had asked for a moment.
No, I'll reach out to commissioners. We define what will be expected of the commission committee And I'll reach out to you all for recommendations who you'd like to see on that thing.
Okay, so if I understand what the mayor said, you're saying that when the committee is formed, you're going to be talking to board members related to who will, prior to forming the committee? Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, we'll be asking for two members of the board, Mr. President, to be on this committee.
Great, okay, thank you. Is there a timeline when the study is delivered? What's our
Yes.
anticipated return on that?
February 2022. And with approval tonight, they said they can meet this deadline.
Okay, and the project that we're talking about is which for
The feasibility study,
of which project though? That's what I'm,
the stormwater feasibility study
okay, for the entire
project.
municipality.
Yes.
Okay, very good. I'm in the back of my mind, I'm being nagged by, is this the North Seaton Avenue piece? And I thought we were further along with that as we've had different process. Okay.
It
very
has, it doesn't have, it doesn't have specifically to do with North Seaton Avenue, but it all ties together.
good. Sure. It's the big picture.
The utility would fund such improvements as well as, possible remediation for North Gate entrance.
And I know this is sort of a crystal ball question, but echoing Mr. Davis's sentiment of the expense related to this, is there any grant money we anticipate being, is there anything in the wind that there might be grant money related to the achieving this goal?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff?
No.
Mr. Mayor, anything? No, very good. Okay. All right. So with that in mind, staff has recommended the Bear, Roland and Grubby Inc.
Yep.
Bid. No, I'm sorry. Goodness gracious. Pardon me. Wood Environmental and Infrastructure Solutions. Yeah, it's the microphone. That's all me. Okay. Staff has recommended the Wood Environmental and Infrastructure Solutions of Chantilly at $50,045. Right, correct? That's what we have posted?
Yeah.
Wood Environmental and Infrastructure Solutions.
Yes.
Yep.
Um, Is there a motion to accept their bid?
I move.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney. Is there a second for Mr. Sweeney's motion?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney, seconded by Commissioner Burns. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All against, please say nay.
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 Nay. Okay, so the motion does not carry for Wood Environment.
So we need to do it.
Okay. Wood-
My nay is not against your recommendation. My nay is against the $50,000 in general. We could use that 50,000 to replace several sections of sewer lines that polluted the streams last week, and help with that. Instead, I guess we got to do it. I don't know how we get around that, but it's not against your recommendation. It's against the principle.
I concur. Yeah.
Because you gave a very good recommendation. I'm just tired of throwing our money out to these people. We have to, eventually we got to fight it. I don't know how we fight it, but eventually we have to go to our state senators or a delegation and say, look, you're draining us dry. We can't do our own work in town because we're doing all this other stuff that nobody has really convinced me or can show where planting these trees and doing all this stuff is cleaning up. I'm hearing all the pollution's coming from the Susquehanna River. So they have proved that. So that's mine. Sorry.
So the mayor did go to an MML meeting and tried to rally local officials to start fighting against this. We didn't get anywhere. And unfortunately, a lot of places haven't gotten anywhere. Trust me, I echo your sentiment. It's very hard to do a budget when you've got to budget $250,000 a year. But when MDE starts levying these fines, like we just got a settlement on the the sanitary sewer overflows from 2015 and the amount of, at least we got it knocked down to $6,600. That's my concern, is the town can't sustain fines that they can and do have the authority to levy. So I don't know what the answer is, and staff just needs some direction. If these things aren't going to get approved, then we need to know what to do. Because I don't think we're going to keep MDE off our back forever.
I feel we're obligated to meet this need, but what my concern is the price point, and I do respect the legwork that went into researching this. My thought is, of what I know regarding the University of Maryland's Environmental Science Center, it is it's a premium organization. And if you found otherwise, I'd like to certainly hear that about like the report of their 3 other customers, for lack of a better term. But I feel there might be value in using them, and that they are local, they are vested, and they are part of our process. I feel. I mean, I know that a lot of the research comes through them, so that's why I'm leaning that way toward recommending them. So I think I'm taking a different tack on this, but I've come to the same conclusion. And again, it's not a criticism of the board, or sorry, of staff. It's just I feel that personally, I feel more comfortable with this organization.
At the end of the day, and it's nothing against them. It's a graduate program.
Right. No, and I understand.
And so the reason they're able to bid so low is because it's graduate work.
Correct.
And as anybody in education understands, that's they're always going to be the low bid across the board. And it's not anything against their work, but that's probably why at the end of the day, they don't have as many recommendations and bids, because everybody looks at it as in terms of, hey, it's a graduate program. Do we trust and things of that nature? And that's why they're able to.
It's good
low bid.
experience, right? I mean,
I'm not denying it's good experience. I think everybody needs the experience, but when, staff has to go and ask, for recommendations, a lot of people are probably hesitant in the long term of, hey, we're going to go with the graduate students, or we're going to go with the company that has 35 years of experience.
Commissioner Burns brings up an excellent point, and in their proposal, it states that graduate students are going to do a lot of the work. So that's what scared the review team in the beginning.
I don't know if I think it's a scary thing, but I think ultimately that's why they're able to bid so low. I mean, if you think about it, you have free labor.
Exactly.
And anybody that's been through a graduate program understands that. And it's not a knock against any of the graduates in the work they're going to do, because they are the future of these organizations and companies. But that's obviously why I think some people are hesitant to say, hey, we're going to go out and get these guys, and why they probably have, only 3 reviews versus the 200 plus of other companies as well.
So I totally accept what you're saying. I feel that they would be, for lack of a better term, a hungrier organization, and they would be more cutting edge.
I don't disagree.
So that's part of where I'm coming from, and arguably price point, because the mayor talks to me consistently about budget concerns and budget strains and staffing and meeting the needs of the community. And I'm thinking, if you feel that it's a risk, which I understand regarding you're doing graduate students, sure, but I think it's a worthwhile risk, because we're being accountable to the state of Maryland Department of the Environment, and we're using Maryland's Environmental Science Center. So I think there's a certain simpatico and perhaps synergy between the two.
Again, I don't disagree in anything that you're saying. And I completely agree where all 3 of you came with the fact that the MDE is out of their mind in what they're attempting to do to every small municipality in this state. And the ultimate question is how do you start the revolution? Because if we do it on our own, we're going to get hammered with fines. So how do we get everyone else to join with us, whether it be Thurmont, Woodsboro, Walkersville, Rockville? I mean, we can name the towns around us within a 100-mile radius. If you have 100 municipalities that are like, you know what, we're fed up with this. How does that start the revolution with the state to say, hey, look, we're all not paying this. We're all losing money daily on things that we need to be budgeted towards our own projects within our towns, versus paying you guys for things that necessarily don't have to be done. So I agree with what everybody's saying. We need to figure out how to start the revolution at the end of the day.
So how about this? We encourage everybody to go with University of Maryland. We overload them and it slows the process and therefore the money's asked for later. Just a thought.
If that's the answer, I would love to.
And I don't mean that
do it, yeah.
sarcastically. I mean, literally like a velvet revolution versus,
I have a question.
rad. Yes, sir, Mr. Sweeney.
If we have to pay $250,000 for ours, how much Woodsboro pay for theirs? They pay the same thing?
I'm sorry for what?
Woodsboro, the smaller ones, smaller than us that are Burgess and stuff like that.
I'm not sure.
$250,000.
They just did, they're doing a huge project in their park down there that I can only imagine how much that costs. I don't know. I don't know what every municipality pays forth towards MS4. I'd imagine like Middletown and Thurmont probably pay more than we do.
Frederick.
And Frederick, I don't believe.
Yeah, Frederick City does have a utility to help fund their MS4 program.
Staff is not opposed to University of Maryland at all. We were just trying to err on the side of somebody that had more experience that maybe we didn't have to walk, hand in hand with through it. We could just turn it over to them, but we're certainly not opposed to utilizing University of Maryland.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Right.
Well, it's not about the money for me at all. It's about the concept. And then on top of that, then the state of Maryland comes back and says, oh, and by the way, you have to lower your tax rate. So they're taking more money. Then they tell us to lower our tax rate and we have people drinking brown water. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I must be old school.
Okay, so do we need a motion to, I'm sorry, Mr. Merrick, go ahead.
No, yeah, but I did go to MML and ask them if we can work on this, and I got zero support from everybody, municipalities and town. I did that a year. Maybe we have to go back.
Well, or we start with this, go to the state senator and just explain to him,
Right.
that's he's going to be in town the end of the month. So
I know.
let's go to the state senator and see what we can get. But we just can't keep giving in. I understand it's something we got to do, but we just can't keep giving in. You gotta call their bluff sooner or later.
Well, we have been at Tilton Windmills, maybe, but we did go out.
Sure.
The only thing with again, we have a small staff and we have to get responses quickly and orderly, and we can count on, and that's why, a lot of things went into selecting the 50,000, and it's just, we're going to keep going back to staff and say, can't you do this responsibility? Can't you do that? And why don't we get more grants and everything? And we just have to get the most professional people in here to help us. And it's your choice. I'm not done.
So I'm turning to the board for a motion related to choosing a separate company for the proposal, or a separate organization. I think that's a better way to say it.
I lost my spot.
I make a motion to accept University of Maryland for $33,578.
Is there a second for Mr. Sweeney's motion?
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney, seconded by Commissioner Ritz. Is there any further discussion at this time? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody against, please say nay.
Nay.
Thank you. So the motion carries 4-1. Mr. Ritz, I heard you correctly, is aye?
I did vote aye.
Okay, thank you. Just want to verify. Okay. Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Ritz, Sweeney, Burns, and O'Donnell in favor, and Commissioner Davis against. Thank you. Motion carries 4-1. Okay, thank you.
Before we go on,
Yes, Mr. Burns.
how does everybody else pay for it? How is, if the revolution is, if Mayor Briggs tried to drum up some support and everybody else is just like, nah, we're good. How is it everybody else is surviving this in the long term?
There's two options. The first is to create a stormwater utility, which we're going to be studying. in order to provide a fee to all properties, either tax exempt or non-tax exempt, or you increase your taxes significantly to basically, pay for the churches, pay for the large nonprofits. So someone's going to have to pay, unfortunately, either the taxpayer or everybody equally. So
Along those same lines, then, if back to what I said before, how has there not been the revolution? Or are people just not educated on this in general, and it only comes to people like ourselves and not everybody else understands what's going on behind the scenes? Or is it just people turning a blind eye and just saying, hey, we just got to deal with this at the end of the day?
I think that's probably what the reasoning is. I think they don't see winning, because I know that it's been challenged across the country in different states and everybody has lost. So I think that is probably, I don't know if it's not fear driven, but maybe just not wanting to try, thinking that it's not going to be successful, which is not the answer. The staff will do whatever, I agree. I mean, and not the amounts we try to budget each year, it's getting more and more difficult to still do what we need to do and continue to fund these projects. But knowing the amount of fines that MDE can levy, we try to do our best to kind of keep going so we don't get the fines. So, I mean, that's up to the board how you want to proceed going forward.
Because there were
But
some
on top
towns
of-
up in Pennsylvania that got $500,000 worth of fines, correct?
correct.
Yeah.
And that was going to be my point. There's been other municipalities, counties, and even states that have sued the federal government over the EPA regulations, and they've lost. And then they appealed to the Supreme Court or the higher courts, and they've lost those as well. So it's basically unfortunately, it's the law of the land. I mean, we can fight it all day long. However, it's been fought by bigger purses and lost every single time.
Well, that's why I think we keep doing our projects that we can continue to do. Wow. So we stay in compliance, but then you take up what fight you want to fight, but you are going to need your other legislators, your other elected officials in the state of Maryland we can't do it alone. And I know we're not the only ones out there. I've had conversations with other managers and stuff at the MML conferences, and we're all kind of scratching our head. What do we do? Because the cost keeps going up and up. But it's not something that staff can do. They don't listen to staff. They listen to elected officials.
Well, on top of
So-
that, the hidden cost that we're not even talking about is what staff
Staff.
time. I mean, both here in the office and out on the streets when they have to go out and do the stuff out there to comply. So that's even above and beyond the money we put forward. And then we have to annex property.
Mhm.
And, just to meet the requirements, we're making the town bigger just to plant trees. It just doesn't get it. I'm sorry. I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from the board while we're between items? No? Okay. Mr. Burns, a question you asked, like, how are some of the other municipalities handling it? And I'll put another one in front. I'm aware of some municipalities that have so much development that they have, for lack of a better description, a very deep bank account. And for them, it's almost like, okay, it's not dismissed. And I think everybody here is saying, we want a safe, healthy bay. We want clean water, but the boots on the ground cost is just dominating us right now. We need to modify that. So this is our SOS perhaps. Okay. Moving forward. So we're going back to agenda what now? All right, we're going to agenda item number 4. Five. Okay. With that in mind, we turn to page 57 of 62.
Yes.
Approval of public works equipment purchases for the USDA Community Facility Disaster Grant for consideration. I read it better that time because I had practice. Okay, so I turn to staff.
So yes, we were contacted by USDA after working with them on the funding for the pump station. And they reached out to us to let us know they had grant monies available for public works equipment There would be a match to go with it. But they asked for us to submit any requests for public works equipment that we had on the horizon. So we looked at 4 items that we could use through the grant, and we were awarded $285,500 in grant monies. The USDA will fund $157,000 of it. The town will has to fund $128,500. The first item is the SCADA system and computers at the wastewater treatment plant. SCADA is your system control and data acquisition system. And in the long and short of it is it's the automatic operation of the plant. It acquires the data, advises the systems to adjust to meet the set points in the programming. It has all the alarms for abnormal conditions, and it's got the 911 caller, which calls staff to notify if there's any abnormal conditions. It does all the calculating of the daily and cumulative flows, records all of this data through a historian to keep record. As well as automatic, it allows them to interface with the system to change parameters, the set points, pump operations, et cetera. It's a pivotal part of the wastewater treatment plant. So we had asked for this in the budget for this year, fiscal year 22. It was an asset item with the under the sewer budget. With the new code, it stated that since this is basically a sole source item, we wanted to go with the engineer that was the original designer of the wastewater treatment plant, and that was GHD. So on page 58 is my memo to the board, basically stating why this wasn't put out to bid, why we want to go with GHD. The original system, it had a 5-year warranty. The warranty is expired. If we were to put it out to bid, the whole system would have to be redesigned. It would be much more costly. So I'm asking for the board to approve the proposal from GHD for the SCADA equipment in the amount of $80,800. Again, this is grant funded.
Okay. So any questions from the board for staff related to this item?
If I can, I'd like to
Yes,
do
ma'am.
item by item. So if I
Okay.
can get the SCADA voted on.
Okay, very good. All right, so let's do it as per staff's request. We're okay, board, in following that process? Very
That's
good.
fine.
Okay. So we turn to item 1. As per staff's request, is there a motion to accept the SCADA system and computer wastewater treatment plant purchase?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second for Commissioner Davis's motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Ritz. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We turn now to the backhoe loader. Okay.
Yes, the backhoe loader. So the backhoe loader was put out to bid as required, was required with the new code. Yeah, it was published on the town website. It was emailed to potential contractors, but it was also published on the e-Maryland marketplace. We received 4 bids for a backhoe. The backhoe was in our, I can't get my computer pull up, but it was in our budget to replace in the next 2 years. With this grant funding opportunity, it seemed to us that this was the appropriate time to try to purchase the backhoe. So you'll see 1, 2, 3, and 4 were the bids that we received. Staff, myself, Mr. Click and Mr. Fissel reviewed all the bids that we received, and you can see the dollar amounts. Staff is recommending GT Mid-Atlantic in the amount of $107,220. Reasons being is it is a case backhoe. All our equipment is case. We've been dealing with GT Mid-Atlantic for 25 years. They've got a great reputation with their service and maintenance. Their quality of equipment is excellent. Some of the other ones, there were different models. One was a John Deere, one was a New Holland, and one was a JCB. And staff feels most comfortable going with GT Mid-Atlantic with their case backhoe.
Any questions from staff any questions from the board for staff related to this item?
No, I just think all those justifications are good, especially when you're dealing with heavy equipment. We do the same thing in the fire department. We try to stay with the same
Same vendor.
and same make and model to help with parts and service, and it makes life a lot easier. And with heavy equipment, if they're familiar with case, they should stay with case. So I'm good with that.
And that was a question I was going to ask too. So thanks for bringing that up. I didn't know if there were multiple makes and models of these backhoes. So
Right, yeah, they were through four different makes and models.
interesting.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to accept staff's recommendation for the backhoe purchase from GT Mid-Atlantic in the sum of $107,220?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Commissioner Davis. Is there a second for the motion?
A second.
Motion's been seconded by Commissioner Sweeney. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any abstentions? Any nays? Very good. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We turn to the next item related to the multi-user tractor.
So the multi-user tractor, we obtained 3 estimates. They were well below the 50,000 threshold, so I will go ahead and approve that one tomorrow.
Okay.
The work truck I will have to bring back to you. We're still in the process of obtaining comparable bids on that one. So that one I hope to have back in October.
Is the work truck availability iffy right now based on the chip issue? Are we finding inventory is not available, or?
Oh, I don't think we've even gotten that far in inventory. It's just trying to get comparable on what we need for that truck.
Okay, and the other piece is timeline. We're within the constraints of the grants availability to us?
Yes,
Great.
yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so we are complete with agenda item number 5, according to staff. We turn now to agenda item number 6. Relates to the consideration of approval of policy P21-04 related to permits and inspections fee policy for consideration.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're just making a quick update to section A for new buildings under multifamily dwellings. We did, in addition to any impact fees as established and required by ordinance. On this next page, this is the main reason why we brought this forth is to add the apiary permit and backyard chicken permit fees, in which we were requesting $50 per permit fee. And that's all the changes we are requesting at this time.
Very good. Okay. Any questions for staff related to this modification to the fees?
So the residential fees and all that other stuff for the pools and things, that's staying the same?
Correct. We're recommending to stay in that same right now.
And I got a problem with the fees too, because I think we should be going after the people that aren't fixing up their places, not the ones that are. It seems kind of backwards, but that's all for another day.
Any other questions, discussion for staff related to this fee modification? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the policy P21-04 permits and inspections fee policy?
So
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney's made the motion. Is there a second for Commissioner Sweeney's motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Burns. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? No. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We now turn to setting the agenda for our October 4th, 2021 town meeting.
I have several items. For admin business, proclamation declaring October 2nd, 2021 as Arbor Day for consideration. Is that the right date? October 2nd? Is that right? Okay. Consent was appointment of members to the temporary stormwater utility stakeholder advisory committee for consideration.
That is the name of a committee.
I know.
Okay.
First agenda item, it will be the swearing in of new elected officials. Number 2 is mayor's recommendation for reorganization of the Board of Commissioners for consideration. Number 3 is Community Development Block Grant Public Hearing to provide information on the progress of the townwide ADA sidewalk curb ramp project. Number 4, designation of American Rescue Plan funds for consideration. 5 will be approval of Public Works equipment purchase for the USDA Community Facility Disaster Grant for consideration. And 6, approval of the Rudders Forest Conservation Deed of Easement and authorize the mayor to sign on behalf of the town for consideration. And that's all I have.
Anything from the board?
We'll be done by 8:15.
One
I'm
hope.
gonna hold you to that.
Wishful thinking.
Hopefully not 7:30 myself, but you know. Okay, we move. All right. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda for October 4th as presented.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second for Commissioner Ritz's motion?
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been seconded by Commissioner Sweeney. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Anything else from staff at this time?
No, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to close the meeting?
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney, seconded by Commissioner Burns. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Good night. The meeting closes at 10:18 on September 7th.